morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Russo, and I'm here with Dan Regalato. Both of us are AI security researchers on the research team at Straiker. And we're here today to talk about some of our findings. But before I do, I want to start with a number, 19,000. 19,000 is the number of times this AI-powered hacking tool called Villager has been downloaded in the past 2 months. Not from the dark web forum, but from the Python package index, which holds legitimate software. 2 months ago, our research team discovered something that fundamentally changed how we think about cyber threats. We found an AI framework that doesn't just help with attacks, it is the attacker. It thinks, adapts, and orchestrates complex campaigns completely autonomously. Today, we are going to show you exactly how this works, why it's different from anything we've seen before, and why the term AiPT, or AI-powered persistent threats, is about to become part of your daily vocabulary. All right, let me paint you a picture of where we're at today. For the past 2 decades, cyber attacks have been following a predictable pattern. Human attackers using tools, following playbooks, limited by time and skill. Even sophisticated APT groups are constrained by human factors. They need to sleep, they make mistakes, they can only focus on so many targets at once. But what happens when you remove those human limitations? What happens when the attacker never sleeps, never gets tired, can manage thousands of parallel operations, and learns from every single interaction? That's not a hypothetical anymore. That's Villager. Before we dive into the technical details, let's make sure everyone is on the same page about 3 critical concepts that make this possible: AI agents, the Model Context Protocol, MCP, and how legitimate security tools become weapons. All right, now let's start with AI agents. Now, I know half of you are thinking, oh great, another AI hype session. And the other half are wondering what makes an agent different from ChatGPT. Both reactions are valid. Here's the distinction that matters. ChatGPT is like having a brilliant consultant sitting next to you. You ask questions, it gives answers, it's reactive. An AI agent, on the other hand, is like having you hire an entire team that works autonomously toward a goal. Think of it this way. Imagine you're a pen tester. With ChatGPT, you might ask, how do I scan this network? And it tells you to use Nmap. You run Nmap, look at the results, ChatGPT will tell you what to do next, and it's a back and forth conversation. With an AI agent, you tell it to compromise a network, and it figures out the entire attack chain. It decides to scan, it chooses the right tools, it interprets the results, and it pivots when it hits a dead end, and it keeps going until the mission is completed. No human in the loop required. Now, you might be thinking, okay, how does an AI actually use hacking tools? It can't just type commands into the terminal, right? Enter the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. MCP was first introduced by Anthropic and now widely adopted. It's basically a universal translator between AI models and external tools. It's like giving an AI hands. Here's a simple analogy. Imagine you're trying to teach someone how to cook over the phone. Without MCP, you can only describe what they do. Add salt, stir the pot. With MCP, you're essentially giving them robotic arms that they control directly. An AI just doesn't tell you to run Nmap. It runs Nmap itself, reads the output, and decides what to do next. And here's the kicker. MCP is an open protocol. Anyone can implement it, which means any tool, any service, any capability now is AI controlled, including, as we discovered, an entire penetration testing framework. So why does this combination of AI agents and MCP matter for security? Because it fundamentally changes the economics and scale of cyber attacks. Traditional cyber attacks have been limited by human bandwidth. Even the most sophisticated APT groups can only run so many operations simultaneously. They need skilled operators who understand networking, programming, and exploitation techniques. Training these people takes years. But an AI agent with MCP access to hacking tools, that's infinitely scalable. One person with basic technical skills can now orchestrate attacks that would previously require an entire team of experts. and they can run thousands of these attacks in parallel. It's going from handcrafted attacks to industry-scale automated warfare. Now, before we dive into Villager specifically, we need to talk about penetration testing and how we got here. For those less familiar with penetration testing, or pentesting, it's essentially authorized hacking. Companies hire security professionals to attack their systems and find vulnerabilities before the bad guys do. Pen testers use a variety of tools, such as scanners to map networks, fuzzers to find bugs, exploitation frameworks to test if vulnerabilities are real. It's highly skilled work that requires deep technical knowledge and creative thinking. Now, in 2012, a tool called Cobalt Strike hit the scene. It revolutionized pen testing. Created by Raphael Mudge, Cobalt Strike is what we call an adversarial simulation platform. It's designed to let red teamers, the good guys, pretend to be the bad guys, simulate advanced persistent threats. Cobalt Strike is incredibly powerful. It provides command and control infrastructure, sophisticated payload generation, post-exploitation capabilities, and team collaboration features. It's like giving penetration testers a complete APT in a box. The idea was noble, help defenders, giving them realistic attack simulations. But here's what happened, and this is crucial to understanding why Villager is so concerning. Within a few years, Cobalt Strike became one of the most popular hacking tools among threat actors. Ransomware groups, nation-state actors, cyber criminals, they all started using it. Why? Because it was so good at its job. The features made it perfect for simulating attacks, made it perfect for conducting them. The tool that was meant to help defenders became one of their biggest problems, and now we're seeing history repeat itself with AI-powered tools.
Okay guys, so let's dig into Cyberspike. My name is Dan Regalado. I am part of the security research team here at Straiker. And let me walk you about Cyberspike. And let me first explain you guys how we found Cyberspike in the first place. So a little bit of background. We are a security research team created with a cybersecurity background and also AI research background. I think that combination gives us a lot of value to our customers. Why? Because we truly believe that these classical attacks coming into organizations in the cyberspace are gonna be definitely coming into the AI space. So what we do in Straiker, or one of our main goals, is to track in the wild attacks, right? We monitor MCP servers popping up in internet. We also monitor campaigns. And when we were looking at specific chat conversations, we realized that there was a domain called cyberspike.top. And we cannot realize that that was something interesting because we look at VirusTotal. For you to understand, VirusTotal is a very well-known repository of engines, antivirus engines, that you can submit worldwide samples, and then you can get back a report of if this is something malicious or not. In that specific service, we found this domain. We can pivot and see if there is some detections about it. And then we realized there were some malicious detections of this domain. So that was our initial, pinpoint on there is something going on here. So then we started digging into it, and then we take a look at the domain. As you can see, I'm gonna show you guys in this presentation the blog. We think it's very important for us to kind of walk you through the blog that you guys already read, but in our own words, walk you through all the findings and giving you more details, okay? So here in this section, as I mentioned, we have the cyberspike.top, and then we kind of dig into who is behind. We realized that this domain was created back in 2023, and it was created by a Chinese company. Don't worry about the name. We are not, fingerprinting everyone. It's just about the source of this domain. It was a company in China created and registered back in January 2024. But it was interesting that this domain didn't have a website. Okay, so that kind of gives us like another kind of suspicious of why there is no website of this specific domain, which is using some chat conversations at that moment. Okay, so you will see more in a second. We kept digging into it. Then we found some of a LinkedIn but Chinese one, which is this page that you are seeing here. And we can see that the company has some employees listed, but we didn't find anyone, properly, like the CEO or any employee. We also didn't see any specifics about what they were doing. So that one gave us more suspiciousness. Okay, we kept digging, and then we used a website that is called Wayback Machine, which basically allows you to see all pages. These guys kind of archive those pages that one day existed in internet, and then you can, even if it doesn't exist today, you can recover them. So we went there and we found how was this Cyberspike website looking back in 2023. As you can see here, by the way, this was all Chinese. We just translated, but you can see here that this company was selling a product. You can see the login page, probably for the customers, and you can get Cyberspike, which was like some sort of a product. What kind of product they were selling, right? So then we keep digging. They have some like a support and some packages here in Chinese, and even you can see a looking of this application that is basically the product. And in this page you can see something around a tool that has ports, machines, statistics. Not clear yet what is this, but kind of starting giving us a sense of what was going on here. Okay, then we see some releases, like December 10, November 19, and some versions with some features, like for example some features like multi-stage generator, C2 tools. Guys, C2 is the typical name of a command and control server used by cybersecurity terms. Okay, and then once we saw this, we went back to VirusTotal, the repository that I told you it is used to kind of find samples or people submit potential malicious documents. And then we went to this platform, and then we found the installer of Cyberspike. Okay, it was an MSI, an installer for Windows. We went ahead and then we downloaded it, and then we executed it in our own lab. Okay, and then you can see here that inside Cyberspike there were like plugins, the Cyberspike main program, and all different programs inside. I don't want you guys to waste your time, but basically this was around a remote administration tool software. What is a RAD, or remote administration tool? It's basically a program that is used normally as a malicious purpose, that is able to get into a machine, an endpoint, or a device, and then it has control of the device and wait for instructions from the attackers to execute malicious actions. Think about a virus that is running in your device and is eventually receiving options to allow the attackers to gain remote access to your laptop, or to turn off or turn on your camera, or to steal information from your laptop, or wait for you to connect to the bank to pop up another window and steal your credentials with a fake login page. That's a rat. So basically, these guys have this Cyberspike Studio, which at this point, again, nothing malicious. It's just like a software being sold by this team that has some sort of a red team simulation capabilities. Okay, that's it. Then we can keep digging into this specific suit that these guys were selling. When you run it, it even has a login credentials that communicate to this specific IP, which points to cyberspike.top, the domain that we were mentioning, you guys. Okay, and then we were start going deep into the communications, and sooner or later we cannot find the same suite of programs that we just showed in our lab, but also now in VirusTotal, and you can see that most of them has 50 or more detections from antiviruses, meaning it's something that it doesn't look benign, right? And it's like a keylogger. A keylogger is a program that captures whatever a person types in the keyboard, is captured and normally send it out to internet. So obviously that's something malicious, but this was part of the suit of Cyberspike. But interestingly, when we went deep into these components, we were thinking if this was something made in-house by these guys, since they were selling Cyberspike. But then we realized by going deep into the analysis that actually they were just re-implementing a well-known rat that is called async rat, as you can see here. Okay, this async rat, it was widespread. It gained widespread attention back in 2019 because the source code was released in GitHub, and because of that, many attackers basically they just created new variants of rats. The most known are DC rat and venom rat. That's the reason that when you see these rats in the internet, you can see detections from antivirus either as a venom rat, DC rat, or async rat. Anyways, so long story, you can see here a quick comparison that we did, where in the left side you have a Cyberspike program, and in the right side we have the async rat, which is exactly the same program but just renamed. Basically, we just put you a couple of examples here, like in this case Discord DLL, which is used to communicate with Discord, keylogger, or the remote camera in order to interact with the laptops or devices cameras. Then at this point we realized that these guys were implementing async rat into their red team product. Okay, again, we're not saying nothing bad. It's just a suit of maliciousness in this product. And then we also realized that these guys were implementing other open source projects like Mimikatz, which is very, very well known. It's another tool, open source, used to dump password hashes from Windows memory. Okay, and they were also implementing there. Okay, so at that moment we kind of realized, okay, so Cyberspike is a company that is selling a red team framework product for probably running scenarios that today doesn't have that web page available, which for some reason is not being sold anymore, and that's it. But then from there we start pivoting into something more recent based on the same domain, and here is where Villager came into play. So following the same domain, cyberspike.top, we identify a URL, as you can see here. This URL is a classic URL. If you look at this v1 slash chat completions, it's a classic URL used by ChatGPT or those chatbots that you can create. Okay, so that means that there was another project going on, but now in the AI side that hit us definitely, that hits our attention. So when we look at this specific URL, we came to know that it was being used by a software called Villager. So Villager, it was actually posted in a well-known repository, a totally legitimate repository from Python, which is called pypi.org. It's a totally legitimate repository where all people can download it from internet. Again, it's just a tool that you will realize what it does in a second. So Villager was using the same domain, which means is for some reason is connected to the same infrastructure of the guys that were selling a red team product in 2023, and now in 2025, July 2025, they have now this Villager. Okay, so let's go deep into Villager, and before that, just a quick check on who is behind, and this is just a explanation publicly available. We're not saying these are bad actors at all, by the way. Is in the page of the Python description project, it is a nickname called StupidFish001, and this guy is a former CTF player from China. It actually has many other projects in Python, and this whole project, they name it AL-S1. So they created many components, as you can see them listed here, all around the project name AL-S1, which Villager is part of this kind of project components. Okay, and then there is other emails from the team, all of them pointing to cyberspike.top. Okay, and then at that moment when we released the blog, there were 10,000 downloads only in 2 months, and right now, guys, as we speak, it is 19,000. It has doubled the number within a month, which kind of seems like it's something that is working, is something that is useful, but is that something that can be weaponized? And there is where we get into the Cobalt Strike connection that I'm going to explain you in a second. Okay, so but before going into the Cobalt Strike connection, let's go into what is this Villager and why it is important, or why we need to take care of these kind of programs or packages on our side. Okay, so before going into this deep dive, I created a diagram for you guys, okay, to be more useful. So Villager, okay, so first of all, Villager is AI based. What that means, guys, and this is very important, is that first of all, it has an MCP server and client. What is an MCP server, guys? Okay, so think about like a component or a software that exposes multiple functionalities for an AI model. Imagine that you have an MCP server that is gonna be able to book your flights, is gonna rent your car, is gonna book your hotel. All that functionality comes into something called MCP that you can just plug in into your agentic application, and now your agentic application is able to do all those functionalities. Okay, great. Now I need a MCP server that translates from Chinese to all the different languages. Great. This is your second MCP. Or in this case, you know what? I want a MCP that can perform pen testing or penetration testing attacks or red teaming attacks into an organization. There you go. Here is your MCP. Okay, so Villager has a MCP server that allows you as user to basically attack an organization using something called Kali. Kali, guys, Kali, is a very well-known penetration testing tool that has multiple tools inside a virtual machine that you can run attacks all around the OC model, layer 2 kind of port, TCP port, network-based attacks, at the network layer, all the way to application layer. You can attack applications, web applications, databases. You can even attack network-based attacks, man in the middle, Wi-Fi networks. So it's a whole suite of tools that are inside this virtual machine, Linux operating system called Kali. Okay, so these guys created this MCP, which has the functionality to run Kali on demand. And very interestingly, also, these MCP servers running these Kali instances, they can also be destroyed to avoid any forensics investigation. Okay, but okay, so that's like the MCP, guys, which means this guy has the power to do that. Great. But what makes Villager very unique is that it talks in natural language, guys. What that means is, if you look at the diagram, okay, the way it works is that you can see the natural language input in the left side. So as a user of Villager, you can just tell in natural language what you need. For example, hey, could you please test example.com for vulnerabilities and gain access? Enter. That's it, guys. So after that, Villager is gonna go and run a recon phase, which basically means it's gonna kind of understand what's inside example.com, what the technology is behind, and based on that, it's gonna go back to the RAG database. RAG, another term in AI world, guys. So we used to know, we were used to, capable to understand databases, relation-based databases. But in this AI world, there is this RAG, kind of a container, but what it has is like a documents instead of tables. Okay, it's kind of the difference between a traditional relation-based relational database in a RAG. At the end of the day, it's like a repo to store something and query to get it out, but in a RAG, it's like a document-based format. So in this scenario, these guys has in Villager 4,000 plus exploits, or in RAG terms, documents available. So as soon as Villager understands what is behind, go and search for available exploits and throw them. But not only that, it's AI based, meaning they go and send exploit, they adapt. It didn't work. It didn't work because probably it has a latest version, or because of the version we have, you need to have another exploit. That reasoning is something that you cannot get in a traditional pen testing tool. So once Villager finds the right exploit, go and execute it, and finally do the post-exploitation, which means can do persistence, can do exfiltration of data. But this whole thing, guys, can you see the problem? So you don't need to have technical skills to hack an organization. You just need to talk in natural language and then trigger an attack in an organization, okay? And let's forget about villager for a second. It's not about villager. It's about these AI-based frameworks that are coming and are going to be easier than ever to weaponize. So whoever wants to get up and try to attack a company is just one single sentence away from being able to do it, okay? And remember back in the day, we have RAS, right? Like a ransomware as a service. It was huge because now attackers can just lease cloud component and just click on it and start attacking organizations. They don't need to know anything about creating malware. Now with this, it's similar in the AI world because attackers, they just need to go. I didn't mention these guys. Villager, since it is hosted in Python, legit repository, you just need to run a command to install it in your machine. That's it. Okay? And then you start talking in natural language. Now, that's a villager. Okay? And what is the connection with Cobalt Strike, guys? And this is where I think it becomes very interesting. So, the connection with Cobalt Strike. So, Cobalt Strike, so that you guys understand a little bit of Cobalt Strike. If you are not familiar, so Cobalt Strike is a legitimate framework to run red teaming operations in organizations. It is sold by a company, but it is very useful for attackers. So basically, attackers attackers misuse Cobalt Strike for malicious actions, right? Instead of testing a company, they attack organizations, and then Cobalt Strike was weaponized all around in many different targets all around the world, and is very well known in the ransomware space. I just show you here, for example, Stop Ransomware. You can go here and check that Cobalt Strike is mentioned here because it was using here, or there is a recent attack here of Cobalt Strike. So I just want to show you that Cobalt Strike is an easy way to just use, since it is available. They can crack it, or they can even buy it, but then just use it maliciously, and now is weaponized across worldwide. But Cobalt Strike, still you need to understand technical aspect to run this tool, okay? Now with Villager, it's easy as Cobalt Strike to get it in terms of kind of start using it, but it's even easier because, as I said, it's just a Python repository that you can just go and download it and start using it. That's one thing. Second is natural language that you can just talk to it and it's going to start executing things malicious for you. By the way, Villager, and we never ever said that those are bad guys, right? We always mention that it is a tool like Cobalt Strike that can be used maliciously, so that's why you guys needs to be protected. And we want to just mention that also Villager team, they updated in the latest release. They kind of deprecated Villager, which is a really good sign of the people behind Villager, that they are not doing anything bad. But again, guys, forget about Villager. It's all around these new AI-based frameworks that are going to be easy for attackers to target your organization. And let me close with the recommendations for you guys once you go back to your organization. Okay, let me check what is here. Okay, so let me close with recommendations, guys, and so that you can get some takeaways. So first of all, I think it's very important, guys, that you get expertise on your teams on MCPs. What is an MCP, how it works, so that you can get some sort of a gateway that can be able to inspect your MCPs that your organization is deploying, so it can be something in the middle to make sure that your MCPs are working properly, the tools that are being exposed, the functionality is validated, where they are talking to. That communication is something that you guys needs to monitor. Okay, obviously also all the third-party integrations of these guys is something that you need to have your eyes on it. Don't just download an MCP and start using it. And make sure that that you are protected. Even if you run an MCP locally, it can be exploited. We invite you to check our other blog on DNS Redefined, where we show you that even if you use MCP locally, it can be exploited. Establish an AI governance framework, which that means is, the traditional policies, but now in the AI world, to have this security testing ongoing with approvals of those processes. Okay, threat intelligence capabilities, that's very important, because now you need to go and see what is being built outside, what are the bad guys doing and weaponizing, so that you can be one step ahead and be ready to be protected. Playbooks, traditional playbooks that you can find and replicate in your organization. Now you need to do it, but based on AI attacks. Okay, like that's why Villager is there. Get it from the internet, get your team to replicate it, run it across that playbook, and make sure that you have controls in place to protect it. And last but definitely not least, build continuous agentic security testing. So with this whole explosion of MCPs, explosion of agentic apps, who is protecting those agentic apps? Who is protecting those MCP servers? So you must have a recurrent red teaming automated exercise to be at the speed of AI, but for protecting and for finding vulnerabilities in your organization. So that's pretty much it, guys. So hope you enjoy it, and see you soon. Thank you so much.